You mentioned that you were working with schizophrenics, you did some team building, you studied people who are very efficient at doing things. That seems like a wide range of things that seem to be
The good thing about being a neurolinguistic programmer is you get to do whatever you want.
So what is your profession? What kind of
work
do you do?
My profession is about professions. I mean, I've helped architects to be better architects. I've helped baseball players to be able to hit the ball more often. I've worked with football players to make it so that they could run better. I've worked with race car drivers to make it so they could drive faster.
And do you have to be able to be a good football player or
well, not necessarily. It always helps to try things. But, you know, I'm over 50 years old now. I'm not going to go out and bump heads with a bunch of football players. But, you know, and I'm certainly not going to box with some 6'2" guy that, you know, that can, you know, break a punching bag in half. But you see, you know, my job is about getting it so that they can do what they do better, so that whatever they're doing that works, they keep, and the things that get in their way. I mean, you know, even, you know, people spend so much time worrying and inducing doubt when if they stopped and thought about it, it's a mechanical device. It's like a handshake, only with the wrong hand. Or if you've ever been to Japan, you go like that, and they look at you like they're nuts. You know, they just don't do that there. So it doesn't exist. See, the nice thing is that what we're talking about is how people process information. What I do is about processing information, whether it be feelings or sounds or pictures, whether it has to do with input or representation, and also how we know the information is right. How do we convince ourselves that, you know, if you're constantly creating doubt inside yourself, then you'll never stand a chance. What you have to do is find out how accurate you are based on what you're able to accomplish. See, to me, a lot of people think the definition of personal power is having power over someone else. And I think the definition of personal power is knowing what you do well and knowing what to do next so that you get better. That because if you're constantly improving over what you could do, then, you know, as we say, the sky's the limit.
So that sounds like you're constantly looking for new things, developing new things. So what were you up to most recently? Do you have any new things that you're exploring? Or
well, actually, I've kind of stepped back a little bit, and I'm going back through and studying hypnosis a little more. As much as a lot of people have bad thoughts about hypnosis, I think it's one of the things that's really unexplored. That the hypnotic phenomenon that you can produce, the kind of pain control, the kinds of things that shamanic people are doing. I've gone back and started studying witch doctors and some of these healers in quote primitive cultures, and found out they in fact are doing some things that Western medicine isn't doing, and trying to distinguish the difference between things like how acupuncture works and how we get our energy in our body to be different, so that we can change our state and become healthier and more alert, without necessarily having to have pins stuck all over our body, but just as a general rule that those kinds of things influence us and influence our states of consciousness. That most of these, quote, primitive healers do the healing by inducing altered states in people. And I thought if we took a good long look at hypnosis, we could find ways of creating more general good health, but also better motivation and better attitudes in people by being able to manipulate not only the words and the pictures and the sounds, but the energies that flow inside of the body in different directions. Because now that acupuncture meridians are actually measurable, which frustrates Western science to know things, but the Chinese have made machines by which you can locate acupuncture points. So we can no longer say they're not there, and they do get undeniable results. And I think we have to look at it in a bigger way than just the history of acupuncture, the history of Western medicine. We have to start to think, what does this have to do with learning? What does this have to do with growing up? What does this have to do with the way we feel and think about ourselves from the time we wake up in the morning to the time we go to work, to the time we come home, and how do we relax? Because lots of people who are highly motivated end up burning themselves to shreds because they don't know how to relax. And I think it's important that we begin to take control over what state of consciousness we're in and when, so that we can become very alert and very efficient, but also without giving ourselves a coronary.